Ladies and gentlemen, there is a secret law that governs all achievement, a principle so powerful that those who master it bend circumstances to their will. It is the discipline of assumption. Act as if everything always works out. Definiteness of assumption is the disciplined mental habit of operating from a place of absolute certainty that your desired outcome will be achieved. It is not based on wishful thinking or blind optimism, but rather on an intentional decision to assume success as inevitable, regardless of what the present moment looks like. This mindset does not ignore reality, it transforms it by choosing the lens through which reality is interpreted. A person who moves through life with this definiteness becomes unstoppable, not because they avoid obstacles, but because they have already determined at the level of belief that the obstacles are merely temporary detours on a guaranteed path to success. When you assume that things will work out for you, your mind shifts from problem consciousness to solution consciousness. Instead of wondering what if it doesn't happen, you begin asking what's the best way to make this happen? This subtle shift in inner dialogue changes your energy, your focus, and your decision-making. People who lack definiteness of assumption often waver. They start and stop, doubt and delay, waiting for the world to show them a sign before they commit. But those who live with unwavering mental conviction do not wait for proof, they become the proof. They commit first, and then they allow reality to catch up. The mind is a creative machine. It organizes behavior, emotions, and actions around the most dominant thoughts it holds. When your dominant thought is that success is inevitable, your mind goes to work constructing the internal and external conditions that align with that belief. You notice more opportunities, you take more confident actions, you bounce back faster because your assumption is fixed. This is all part of the process, and I already know where it ends. That inner knowing becomes a source of emotional stability. It becomes a fuel that drives consistent effort and sharpens focus. Consider this: a builder does not begin constructing a house wondering if the structure will one day stand. The blueprint is drawn. The materials are selected. The timeline is scheduled. The builder moves forward with definiteness. The outcome is assumed. Similarly, you must become the builder of your vision with the same level of certainty. Doubt is the destroyer of dreams, not because it is loud, but because it is subtle. It creeps in and weakens the foundation of belief. To master definiteness of assumption, one must practice holding the image of the result with firmness, refusing to let the temporary state of things distort the vision. This does not mean you ignore feedback or close your eyes to real challenges. It means you interpret every event, every delay, every setback through the filter of inevitability. Instead of seeing obstacles as reasons to stop, you see them as steps that were always part of the journey. You adjust your actions, but never your belief. This unwavering assumption gives rise to creative resilience, inner peace, and forward momentum. Definiteness of assumption is a skill. It is a decision you make daily to trust the process, to believe in the unseen, and to move with intention as though the result already exists. When you master this way of thinking, you align yourself with the very laws of success, and you begin to realize that the power to shape your reality has always been within you. Definiteness of assumption is the deliberate mental state in which one chooses to believe with unshakable conviction that the desired outcome is not only possible but already set in motion. It is not passive hope, nor is it baseless optimism. Rather, it is the disciplined commitment to think, feel, and act in harmony with the belief that what you seek is on its way, regardless of what your current circumstances may suggest. This belief becomes the lens through which all experience is filtered. To the person who possesses definiteness of assumption, setbacks are not signs to stop, they are simply signs to adjust. Delays are not denials, they are developments in disguise. This mental posture is not about ignoring reality, it's about defining it. When you assume a certain outcome with definiteness, your mind organizes itself toward that end. Your thoughts begin to align with your goal. Your emotions become supportive, not sabotaging. Your actions are no longer tentative or half-hearted, they carry the degree of certainty. This consistency in thought and behavior creates momentum, and that momentum draws opportunities, insights, and people who are aligned with your goal. There is a natural magnetism in action. People respond to it. Life responds to it. Without definiteness of assumption, the mind becomes a battlefield of conflicting thoughts. You entertain doubt, and with doubt comes hesitation. With hesitation comes inconsistency. With inconsistency comes delay or defeat. But when the mind is anchored in the assumption of success, it becomes peaceful, focused, and resilient. Even in moments of difficulty, the assumption holds firm, this too is working in my favor. That belief is not blind, it is strategic. It enables you to extract lessons from challenges, to adapt quickly, and to maintain emotional control even when things appear uncertain. This mental discipline must be renewed daily. It is a decision, not a feeling. Feelings may fluctuate, but the assumption remains. You must train yourself to think from the outcome, not just about the outcome. You must walk, speak, plan, and respond as the person who already knows the result is secure. In doing so, you alter your perception, and with new perception comes new behavior. New behavior leads to new results. The world begins to conform to the image held in your mind, not because of magic, but because of mental alignment, emotional congruence, and persistent, purposeful action. This is the creative power of definiteness of assumption. Mental blueprinting is the process of deliberately constructing a detailed inner image of the life, goal, or outcome you desire. It is the foundation upon which all lasting achievement is built. Because before anything can exist in the external world, it must first be conceived in the mind. Just as an architect would never begin building without a clear and exact blueprint, so must the individual create, refine, and emotionally invest in a mental picture of the result they intend to bring into form. This blueprint is not vague or general. It is specific, structured, and vivid. It is rich in detail and infused with emotion, because the more clearly you can see it internally, the more naturally your actions begin to align with it externally. The mind works in images, and those images become instructions to the subconscious. When you repeatedly visualize a particular outcome, especially with emotion and belief, you condition the deeper layers of your mind to accept it as reality. This internal acceptance influences your behavior, attitude, and decisions without conscious effort. You begin to speak in alignment with your vision. You begin to walk in the direction of your dream. Obstacles that once seemed threatening lose their power because the mind, through repetition, has already normalized the result. It no longer feels distant or uncertain, it feels familiar. Mental blueprinting is not idle daydreaming, it is purposeful design. It is using the faculties of imagination and focus to give structure to your vision so that your thoughts, energy, and time are invested wisely. When you practice mental blueprinting, you become a conscious creator rather than a passive participant in life. You do not wait for things to happen. You begin to shape what will happen by first seeing it clearly within. This process requires consistency and emotional involvement. A lifeless mental image will not move you. But when your vision is charged with belief, gratitude, and certainty, it's certain, your nervous system begins to adapt. You feel differently. You carry yourself differently. Your environment starts to respond because you have already moved internally. The world outside is simply catching up to the reality you've constructed inside. Through mental blueprinting, you become the architect of your destiny. You create clarity where there was once confusion. You replace wandering with direction. And most importantly, you begin to live from a place of intentional creation where every thought is a brick, every emotion is mortar, and every decision lays the foundation for the life you've already seen within. Faith as a creative force is one of the most powerful principles behind personal achievement and transformation. It is the invisible foundation upon which all great endeavors are built. Faith in this context is not merely religious or spiritual belief. It is the inner certainty that what you desire is already possible, already forming, and already moving toward you, even when no physical evidence yet exists. It is a deep conviction rooted in the unseen that allows you to act, persist, and create despite opposition, doubt, or delay. Faith energizes the mind and activates the will. It gives life to ideas and makes them magnetic. When combined with purpose and action, it becomes a creative force capable of shaping outcomes and bending circumstances. The person who acts with faith steps forward boldly, not because they can see every step ahead, but because they trust that the path will reveal itself as they walk it. This trust is not born of naivety, it is born of understanding. You begin to realize that all creation, whether in business, art, relationships, or life itself, begins first with belief. Before the seed becomes a tree, the gardener must believe in its potential. Before the invention becomes reality, the inventor must believe in its possibility. The belief always comes first. Faith fuels this belief and makes it resilient in the face of challenge. What makes faith a creative force is that it changes the way you relate to your relational environment. Where others see obstacles, the faithful mind sees opportunities for growth. Where others quit, the faithful persist. Faith draws on imagination and vision, giving you the power to hold your goal in mind even when the external world appears to contradict it. And because you hold it firmly, because you act on it consistently, the world begins to reshape itself to match your inner commitment. Faith also empowers you emotionally. It replaces anxiety with assurance, doubt with determination, and fear with focus. It builds internal stability, allowing you to remain calm under pressure and to keep your momentum when the road becomes uncertain. It allows you to take risks, to invest in your vision, and to pursue goals that others deem impossible. In this way, faith is more than belief, it is creation in motion. It is the unseen substance that precedes all form. When cultivated and combined with purpose, imagination, and action, faith becomes the silent architect behind every great success, every transformation, and every fulfilled destiny. Overcoming fear through belief is the process of replacing uncertainty and doubt with conviction and inner certainty. Fear is a natural emotion, often triggered when the mind encounters the unknown or perceives a threat to safety, success, or acceptance. But fear, if left unchecked, becomes a paralyzing force. It clouds judgment, weakens decisions, and causes hesitation when boldness is required. Belief, however, is the antidote. It does not eliminate fear by force, it renders it powerless by offering a stronger alternative. When you believe in yourself, your purpose, or a greater outcome, you shift your focus from what could go wrong to what will go right. That shift is the beginning of your liberation. Belief activates courage. It does not mean you feel no fear at all. It means that your faith in the outcome is greater than your fear of failure. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is action taken despite it. Belief supplies the emotional fuel for that courage. It convinces the mind that what lies ahead is worth the discomfort of moving forward. The moment you truly believe in a possibility, the fear tied to its risk begins to shrink. Your mind stops asking, "What if I fail?" and begins asking, "What must I do to succeed?" This transformation begins within. You must train your mind to dwell more on your vision than your fears. Feed your belief through repetition, through positive affirmation, through imagining the successful outcome as vividly as possible. When the mind is saturated with belief, the emotional tone of your inner world shifts. You feel more empowered, more focused, and more resilient. The fear may still whisper in the background, but it no longer controls the volume of your thoughts. The key is persistence. You may have to choose belief over fear every day, sometimes moment by moment. But each time you do, you strengthen that mental muscle. With time, belief becomes your default state, and fear becomes a passing shadow rather than a permanent obstacle. As belief grows, so does your willingness to take risks, speak up, try again, and persist through difficulties. Ultimately, overcoming fear through belief is about choosing your inner reality. You decide whether fear will limit your actions or whether belief will expand them. When belief is fully embraced, fear loses its authority, and you become free to move, to act, and to create without hesitation. The magnetism of certainty is a subtle yet powerful force that influences outcomes, attracts opportunities, and inspires others. It is not arrogance or stubbornness, it is the quiet, unwavering confidence that radiates from someone who knows what they want and believes they will achieve it. Certainty acts like a magnetic field, drawing into your life the people, events, and resources that align with your vision. When you carry yourself with certainty, the world responds. People trust those who are sure of themselves. They are drawn to clarity, to conviction, to someone who walks with purpose and speaks with confidence. This magnetism is not based on having all the answers or guarantees. Rather, it comes from inner alignment. When your thoughts, emotions, and actions are in harmony with your belief in a specific outcome, you emit a kind of energetic signal, one that is consistent, focused, and compelling. You no longer second-guess every decision or wait for external validation. You move with decisiveness. You speak with belief. You act as though the future is already written and is as written and in favor. That energy is contagious. People feel it when you enter a room. They sense it in your words and your demeanor. Leaders, innovators, and creators throughout history have demonstrated this same magnetic quality. Their certainty-inspired movements attracted supporters and turned ideas into empires. The magnetism of certainty does not require charisma or fame, it only requires inner conviction. But it must be genuine. Pretended certainty lacks power. True certainty is cultivated through belief, preparation, and commitment. It is the result of knowing yourself, trusting your vision, and showing up consistently regardless of temporary results. When you continue to act with confidence even when things appear uncertain, you reinforce that certainty within yourself. Over time, it becomes who you are, not just what you practice. The magnetic effect of certainty also simplifies life. It reduces anxiety and removes the paralysis of indecision. You stop seeking approval from others because your direction is already clear. This doesn't mean you are inflexible, it means you're focused. It means you are open to adjustment, but never to doubt. You may change strategies, but never the belief in your success. Ultimately, certainty draws life toward you. It places you in command of your energy and your future. And when you carry it with authenticity, you attract everything that belongs to the path you've already claimed within. Persistence built on conviction is the unstoppable force that drives success, even in the face of difficulty, failure, or delay. Persistence alone without direction or belief can become exhausting, but when persistence is rooted in deep conviction, it transforms into focused, determined action that continues regardless of obstacles. Conviction provides the why behind your efforts. It is the inner belief that what you are pursuing is meaningful, necessary, and ultimately inevitable. With that foundation, persistence becomes less about effort and more about commitment. You are no longer chasing a dream, you are fulfilling a vision you've already claimed as your own. Conviction creates emotional stability. When challenges arise, most people retreat, change course, or give up entirely. But a person with conviction views setbacks as part of the path, not signs of failure. They understand that success is rarely immediate. They expect resistance, but are not discouraged by it. They do not measure progress only by quick wins, but by the consistency of their movement forward. Because their belief in the outcome is so strong, they persist with patience, adaptability, and focus. This kind of persistence is not frantic or desperate. It is calm and powerful. It is the kind of drive that wakes you early, keeps you up late, and fuels your discipline even on days when motivation fades. When conviction leads, discipline follows. You continue not because it's easy, but because you've decided that quitting is no longer an option. The outcome has become non-negotiable in your mind. What strengthens conviction is clarity of purpose. When you know exactly what you want and why you want it, you become immune to distractions and setbacks. Temporary discomfort no longer outweighs your long-term vision. The noise of doubt, whether from others or from your own mind, loses its influence. You may adjust your methods, learn from your failures, and refine your strategies, but the direction remains fixed. This is how great accomplishments are made, not through talent alone, not through luck, but through sustained effort driven by deep belief. Persistence built on conviction makes you resilient. It teaches you to rise again and again, no matter how many times you fall. It builds character, sharpens focus, and ultimately turns your vision into reality, not because the path was easy, but because your belief never allowed you to stop walking. Results through emotional conditioning are achieved when your internal emotional state is trained to consistently support your goals rather than sabotage them. Most people attempt to change their lives by focusing only on external action, but the true driver of lasting results lies within the emotional patterns that shape thought, behavior, and decision-making. Emotional conditioning is the process of intentionally creating empowering emotional responses to challenges, goals, and everyday experiences. When this is done consistently, it becomes a powerful system that fuels productivity, resilience, and clear thinking, especially in moments when others would fold under pressure. Emotions are not random. They are conditioned responses developed over time through repetition and association. Just like the body can be trained to need physical conditioning, the emotional system can be shaped through mental and experiential repetition. If a person repeatedly responds to setbacks with frustration, discouragement, or fear, those emotions become automatic. But if you train yourself to associate challenges with growth, effort with pride, and setbacks with valuable feedback, you begin to rewire your emotional response system in a way that supports your progress. This conditioning begins with awareness. You must become conscious of your emotional triggers and patterns, what pulls you out of focus, what causes you to procrastinate, and what fuels your confidence. Then, you replace unhelpful emotional habits with intentional ones. This is not a one-time fix, but a daily practice. Visualization, affirmations, mental rehearsal, and controlled breathing are just a few techniques used to build emotional strength and stability. Over time, your nervous system becomes familiar with the emotional states of success, calm under pressure, confidence in uncertainty, enthusiasm in routine, and persistence in difficulty. Results come faster and more consistently when your emotional state is aligned with your goal. Emotional conditioning ensures that your mind remains focused, your body remains energized, and your decisions remain sound even when your circumstances are not ideal. You stop reacting emotionally to temporary conditions and instead respond with clarity, strength, and strategy. This shift allows you to stay on course longer, recover from setbacks quicker, and build momentum faster. Ultimately, success is emotional before it is physical. It is created first through the feelings you allow yourself to live in each day. By mastering your emotional responses, you take control of your behavior, your energy, and your results. In this way, emotional conditioning becomes one of the most valuable tools for personal transformation and high performance.